As you settle into the quiet of this moment, let your mind drift to the tiled corridors of the Imperial Harem in Topkapi Palace, Istanbul, around 1600 CE, where the air carries the scent of rosewater, polished cedar, and the faint jingle of silver anklets. In these secluded chambers, life was a delicate dance of hierarchy, duty, and survival, where women, eunuchs, and servants navigated a world of rigid rules and constant scrutiny. This is not a tale of exotic intrigue or forbidden romance, but of ordinary people, former villagers, captives, or slaves, whose days were shaped by the Sultan's favor and the harem's order. There's no rush here, no need to cling to every detail. Let the soft glow of a brass lamp, the murmur of a fountain, and the gentle rustle of silk curtains lull you like the sway of a cypress in a palace garden. Close your eyes if you wish and let this journey into the challenges of the Ottoman Harem carry you toward rest. We'll explore 10 facets of this world, each a window into the lives of those bound by the harem's walls, from the daily rituals that defined their roles to the moments of vulnerability that tested their resilience. From the bustling kitchens to the quiet bedchambers, we'll move slowly, savoring the textures and sounds of a world both opulent and confining. The air is heavy with the scent of jasmine and incense, the harem alive with the clink of trays and the whisper of ambition. Survival demanded obedience, cunning, and endurance. Life was a balance of duty and danger, but there were also moments of camaraderie, quiet pride, and fleeting joy. Let's begin by stepping into the harem, where every choice was a step toward survival, wrapped in the rhythm of a world both splendid and unforgiving. Imagine standing in a tiled courtyard of Topkapi Palace in 1600 CE, where the air is warm with the scent of orange blossoms, steaming bread, and the faint clink of brass trays. You're a harem member, perhaps a concubine, a servant, or a eunuch living in a world where survival hinges on navigating strict rules and hierarchies. The harem hungs with the splash of a fountain, the rustle of veils, and the distant chant of a prayer. But your day is shaped by tasks that maintain order and favor. A single day reveals the rhythm of this life, its pace deliberate but relentless. Let's wander through your routine, letting the sounds of the harem, the clink of jewelry, the swish of silk, the murmur of whispered orders settle over you like a velvet shawl, guiding you toward calm. Your day begins before dawn, roused by a eunuch's call, the air sharp with the chill of marble floors and the scent of damp stone. You sleep on a cushioned divan in a shared chamber, under a wool blanket, the air heavy with the rustle of linen and the quiet breath of others. You dress in a kaftan of cotton or silk, its embroidery light, the air filled with the creak of a wooden chest and the weight of modesty. Breakfast is simple. Bread with honey served on copper, the air warm with the scent of yeast and the murmur of a blessing. As a concubine, you attend lessons in music or embroidery, your hands steady, the air filled with the strum of an oud or the prick of a needle. Your role is to please the Sultan, your movements graceful, the air tense with the weight of scrutiny and the whisper of rivals. If you're a servant, you clean chambers or prepare meals, your arms aching, the air heavy with the clatter of pots and the scent of spices. Eunuchs guard the harem, their steps silent, the air tense with their watchfulness and the jingle of keys. The community is both a refuge and a cage. Women share gossip. Eunuchs enforce rules, the air warm with the murmur of alliances and the scent of rosewater. Survival demands caution. A misstep risks punishment. The air heavy with the fear of exile and the clink of chains. Disease spreads in close quarters, the air thick with the smell of herbs and the hope of health. As night falls, you rest on your divan, the air quiet save for the flicker of a lamp and the distant splash of a fountain, your body weary from the day's performance. As this world settles, let's shift to the life of one woman whose story reflects the challenges of the harem. Let your thoughts drift to a lamplit chamber in Topkapi Palace in 1600 CE, where the air is warm with the scent of jasmine, wax, and the faint rustle of silk curtains. Here we meet Zeynep, a concubine of 25 whose life embodies the delicate balance of survival in the Ottoman Harem. Imagine standing beside her, the glow of a brass lamp casting shadows on tiled walls, the weight of a velvet kaftan on her shoulders, the soft murmur of a companion's whisper. Zeynep's story is one of ambition and endurance, her days shaped by the Sultan's favor and the harem's hierarchy. Let's follow her journey, letting the rhythm of her life, the clink of anklets, the scent of rose water, the splash of a fountain lull you like a gentle tide, guiding you toward rest. Zeynep was born in 1575 CE in a Circassian village, a air heavy with the smell of hay and the bleat of sheep. Captured at 12 during a raid, she was brought to Istanbul, the air thick with the creak of a slave ship and the weight of fear. At 16, she entered the harem as a servant, trained in etiquette, the air heavy with the drone of lessons and the scent of ink. By 20, her beauty earned her a concubine's role, the air filled with the rustle of silk and the hope of favor. Court chronicles taught her the value of charm, the air tense with the murmur of ambition and the scent of perfume. Her days were spent in lessons or ceremonies, her voice soft in song, the air filled with the strum of an oud and the scent of rosewater. She bore a son, a path to influence, the air heavy with the pain of childbirth and the murmur of prayers to Allah. Intimacy was formal. Her time with the Sultan was rare, the air tense with the weight of performance and the clink of jewelry. Gifts of gold or silk came with favor, the air heavy with the hope of security and the scent of wax. Hardship was constant. Rival concubines plotted her fall, the air tense with the whispers of intrigue and the fear of poison. A fever in 1595 CE swept the harem, the air thick with the smell of camphor and the weight of survival. Gossip could ruin. A rumored lapse risked demotion, the air heavy with the scrutiny of the valid sultan and the murmur of spies. Yet there were moments of light. Zeynep found solace in music, her fingers on a lute, the air warm with its melody and the scent of incense. Festivals like Eid brought sweets, the air alive with the smell of honey and the chatter of women. In 1605 CE, Zeynep faced danger, a rival's accusation of disloyalty, the air heavy with the scent of fear and the weight of judgment. She sought protection through prayer, the air thick with the murmur of verses and the hope of redemption. By her 30s, her health faded from strain. She died in 1610 CE, likely from illness, her life unrecorded, but vital to the harem's rhythm. As Zeynep's story fades, let's shift to the traces of this world, uncovered by those who seek its past. Imagine standing amid the ruins of Topkapi Palace, its tiles chipped, where archaeologists uncover the traces of a society bound by hierarchy and seclusion. The year is now, but your mind lingers in 1600 CE, where the air was thick with rosewater, incense, and the quiet weight of ambition. Harem members like Zeynep left fragments of their lives, earrings, manuscripts, brass lamps that reveal their challenges and roles. Archaeology and chronicles are a window into their world, showing a culture of duty and survival. Let's explore these traces, letting their stories settle like dust in a quiet courtyard, their whispers guiding you toward rest. Excavations reveal a world of confinement. A silver earring, found in a chamber floor, is etched with floral designs, its metal worn, the air once heavy with the jingle of jewelry and the scent of hair. A parchment fragment, preserved in archives, lists a concubine's duties, its ink faded, the air once filled with the scratch of a quill and the scent of ink. Brass lamps, their wicks charred, mark rituals, the air once warm with the flicker of flame and the smell of oil. These finds are fragile, their survival a testament to the harem's order, the air thick with the past. The culture was one of power and restraint, shaped by the Sultan. Women were ranked concubines, mothers, servants, the air heavy with the rustle of silk and the murmur of etiquette. Chronicles, like those of Evliya Çelebi, note their roles. Some rose to influence, others fell to obscurity, the air tense with the clink of gold and the fear of disgrace. Intimacy was regulated, fidelity to the Sultan expected, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and the weight of loyalty. Rural harems were simpler, their women less adorned, the air filled with the smell of bread and the weight of labor. Archaeology uncovers daily life. In kitchens, clay pots hold spices, the air heavy with the scent of cumin and the effort of cooking. In chambers, embroidery needles mark beauty, the air filled with the prick of thread and the scent of silk. Mysteries linger in these finds. Why were some earrings buried in walls, perhaps as offerings? A faded letter hints at a concubine's plea, its words faint, the air thick with secrecy. Servants' lives, like Zeynep's early years, are elusive, marked by brooms, the air filled with the echo of their tasks. The community shaped this world. Women and eunuchs forming alliances, the air warm with the murmur of gossip in the baths. The valid sultan judged lapses, her voice stern, the air heavy with the scent of incense and the weight of imperial law. These traces, uncovered by careful hands, weave a picture of a society bound by duty, yet human in its struggles, the air thick with the scent of effort and devotion. As we leave this world of artifacts, let's shift to the lives of the elite, whose roles shaped the harem's dynamics. Picture yourself in a gilded chamber of the harem, its curtains heavy, the air warm with the scent of amber, silk, and the faint clink of gold trays. The year is 1600 CE, and this is the world of the harem elite, valid sultans and favored concubines, whose lives were shaped by the same rules as women like Zeynep, but marked by power. The harem pulses with the strum of a tambour and the chant of a prayer, but their roles carried greater influence. Let's explore their world, letting the rhythm of their days, the flicker of lamps, the rustle of velvet settle over you like a silken curtain, guiding you toward calm. The elite, like Valid Sultan Safi, lived in luxury, their chambers adorned with tiles, the air heavy with the scent of rosewater and the glow of silver lamps. They rose late, dressed by maids in embroidered kaftans, the air soft with the rustle of silk and the clink of jewels. Breakfast was lavish. Pastries with sherbet served on porcelain, the air fragrant with sugar and the murmur of prayers. Their day was spent managing the harem or advising the sultan, the air filled with the scratch of quills or the scent of incense. Favored concubines like coxswain bore airs, their voices soft, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine and authority. Survival was a game of influence. Safi negotiated alliances, her words careful, the air tense with the clink of gold and the weight of politics. Intimacy with the Sultan was a duty, their favor fleeting, the air heavy with the murmur of spies and the scent of perfume. Chronicles note lapses, jealousy, or betrayal, the air heavy with the scent of scandal and the fear of exile. Servants like Zeynep faced stricter rules, their labor constant, the air tense with the weight of obedience and the hope of promotion. The contrast with Zeynep's life is stark. Where she slept on a divan, the elite rested on cushions, the air warm with velvet and firelight. Where she ate bread, they dined on lamb, the air rich with spices and the clink of silver. Yet all faced the same sultan rivalries, and disease threatened both, the air heavy with the scent of herbs and the fear of disgrace. The gods blessed all, their mosques smoky, the air tense with the chant of imams and the weight of divine favor. Ordinary servants sustained this elite world, their labor invisible. They polished tiles or served sherbet, their hands calloused, the air heavy with the clatter of trays or the scent of soap. Their meals were simple bread, lentils eaten in cramped quarters, the air smoky from a shared hearth. These workers were the harem's pulse, their toil enabling its grandeur, the air filled with the rhythm of their tasks. The elite's world was one of power but also peril. Their influence was fragile, their lives public, the air thick with the weight of leadership and duty. As we leave this world of silk and silver, let's shift to the tools and technologies that shaped their lives, the objects that defined their survival. Imagine standing in a harem chamber, the year 1600 CE, where the air is thick with the scent of rose water, ink, and the faint glow of a brass lamp. Harem members relied on tools, quills, mirrors, cooking pots that shaped their roles and survival. For women like Zeynep, these were simple, tied to duty, while the elite used finer versions for status. Let's explore this world of craft, letting the rhythm of scratching quills, clinking trays, and the steady drip of oil settle over you like the hum of a quiet bathhouse, guiding you toward rest. Communication tools were central, their forms practical. Reed quills wrote letters or lessons, the air filled with the scratch of nibs and the scent of ink. Zeynep copied verses, her hand steady, the air heavy with the effort of learning and the smell of parchment. The elite used ivory inkwells, their letters ornate, the air soft with their shine and the scent of wax. Brass lamps lit chambers, their oil flickering, the air heavy with the smell of grease and the effort of tending flames. Beauty tools were vital. Copper mirrors reflected careful grooming, the air filled with the clink of combs and the scent of rose water. Zeynep powdered her face, her movements precise, the air tense with the weight of appearance and the murmur of maids. The elite used silver mirrors, the air heavy with their gleam and the scent of jasmine. Embroidery needles crafted gifts, the air heavy with the prick of thread and the scent of silk. Work tools shaped survival. Clay pots cooked stews, the air filled with the scent of cumin and the effort of stirring. Zeynep stirred broth, her arms aching, the air heavy with the steam of spices and the weight of service. These tools brought risks. A cracked pot could ruin a meal. A flawed letter could spark gossip, the air tense with the effort of perfection. Maintenance was constant, sharpening quills, polishing mirrors, trimming wicks, and a broken tool could disrupt favor, the air heavy with worry. These tools were the harem's framework, each one a testament to the effort to maintain order, the air thick with the scent of labor and care. As we leave this world of tools, let's shift to the customs and traditions that gave meaning to their lives, binding harem members to their sultan and community. Picture yourself seated by a tiled fountain, the year 1600 CE, where the air is warm with the scent of incense, the faint tang of sherbet, and the soft murmur of voices reciting a prayer. For women like Zeynep, life was shaped by customs and traditions, rituals that ensured loyalty and guarded reputation. These practices were a lifeline, offering order in a world of hierarchy. Imagine the flicker of a lamp, the rustle of silk, and the drone of a hymn, their rhythm soothing like a familiar chant. Let's wander through these rituals, letting their cadence wrap around you, guiding you toward rest. Islamic rituals were central, their forms sacred. Zeynep prayed 5 times daily, the air warm with the chant of verses and the scent of musk. Marriage ceremonies were rare, reserved for the sultan, the air heavy with the drone of blessings and the scent of rosewater. Promotions were celebrated with gifts, the air tense with the clink of gold and the weight of favor. Festivals like Eid honored the faith, the air filled with the rustle of veils and the weight of devotion. Daily rituals were practical. Zeynep bathed in the hammam each morning, a nod to purity, the air heavy with the scent of soap and the effort of grooming. Women wore specific kaftans, cotton for servants, silk for elites, to signal rank, the air filled with the rustle of fabric and the scent of dye. Superstitions guided actions. An amulet warded off envy, the air heavy with the clink of charms and the hope of protection. The sultan's favor was sought through perfect etiquette, the air tense with the weight of scrutiny and the murmur of rules. Storytelling was cherished, done in bathhouses. Tales of loyal wives or fallen rivals filled the air, their cadence soothing as Zeynep listened, her hands resting from embroidery. The air carried the scent of steam and rosewater, the stories of bond between women, teaching duty or sparking reflection. Festivals offered relief. Eid brought music, the air alive with the strum of an oud and the glow of lamps. Zeynep joined discreetly, her veil heavy, the air warm with the laughter of kin and the scent of sweets. The community enforced these customs, women and eunuchs watching each other, the air warm with the murmur of gossip in the corridors. The valid sultan dictated rituals, her voice stern, the air heavy with the scent of incense and the weight of imperial law. These rituals wove the harem into its world, the air filled with the rhythm of shared duty. As we leave this world of tradition, let's shift to the food and sustenance that nourished these lives, sustaining them through their ordered days. Imagine sitting at a low table in a harem chamber, the year 1600 CE, where the air is warm with the starchy scent of rice, the faint smoke of a brazier, and the soft murmur of a prayer. Food was a necessity, often lavish for elites, fueling the tasks of charm and service. For women like Zeynep, meals were simpler, shaped by rank and season, yet they were a pause in a life of duty. Picture the flicker of a lamp, the clink of copper trays, and the soft drone of a blessing, their warmth wrapping around you like a woolen shawl. Let's explore the tastes, textures, and smells of their table, letting these details settle gently in your mind, guiding you toward rest. Rice was a staple, its grains soft and steamed, served with yogurt. Zeynep ate with her fingers, the air warm with the scent of milk and the clink of bowls. Kitchens produced flatbreads, the air heavy with the smell of yeast and the effort of kneading. On festival days, lamb or baklava was served, the air rich with grease or the sweet aroma of honey, a treat that softened the meal's plainness. Offerings to God, dates or bread, were left at mosques, the air warm with their scent and the weight of piety. Stews made from lentils or eggplant were a daily dish, cooked over a fire. Zeynep stirred in cumin or mint, the air heavy with the earthy scent of spices and the steam that warmed her face. Fish, often from the Bosphorus, added flavor, its salty taste sharp, the air filled with the smell of oil. Meat was rare for servants, chicken for elites, broth for others, the air heavy with the aroma of fat and the murmur of prayers. The elite dined on pistachios or sherbet, the air rich with sweetness and the clink of silver. Vegetables were common, their availability tied to palace gardens. Carrots or spinach were staples, their earthy taste a contrast to rice. Herbs like parsley, grown in pots, added sharpness, their aroma cutting through the stew's richness. Fruit was a luxury, oranges or pomegranates, its sweetness rare, the air soft with their juicy scent. Zeynep shared a fig with a companion, the air warm with the joy of a treat and the murmur of thanks. Coffee was the drink of choice, its warmth soothing, the air filled with the clink of cups and the scent of roast. Water, scented with rose, was served in copper, the air damp with its purity and the faint taste of flowers. Meals were a communal act. Women gathered in chambers, their fingers scooping rice, the air warm with the glow of lamps and the murmur of talk gossip about rivals, the day's duties, or tales of faith. The act of eating was a pause, a moment of connection in a life of service, the air filled with the comfort of togetherness. As we leave the table, let's shift to the challenges and dangers that shaped their lives, from the perils of rivalry to the threats of disease. Imagine walking a harem corridor at dusk, the year 1600 CE, where the air is cool, the lamps flickering, and the distant splash of a fountain echoes through the tiles. For women like Zeynep, life was a negotiation with danger. Rivalries, disease, and scrutiny were ever present, their impact felt in the quiet moments of fear and doubt. Picture the flicker of a lamp, the weight of an amulet in trembling hands, and the tense silence of a prayer for favor, their rhythm a steady pulse in a world of uncertainty. Let's explore these perils, letting their weight settle gently in your thoughts, like mist falling on a quiet garden, guiding you toward calm. Rivalries were a relentless foe. Jealousy or ambition sparked plots, the air tense with the fear of poison and the murmur of spies. Zeynep faced whispers of disloyalty, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine and the weight of caution. Prayers to Allah were remedy verses chanted softly, the air thick with the murmur of faith and the scent of incense. The elite faced harsher stakes, their lapses punished by exile, the air heavy with the clink of chains and the fear of oblivion. Disease was a constant threat. Fevers or dysentery swept through the harem, the air thick with the smell of camphor or mint meant to ward off illness. Zeynep used herbal oils, the air heavy with their sharp scent and the fear of contagion. Physicians were rare, their remedies crude, the air filled with moans and the stench of decay. Water from fountains could carry filth, its taste bitter, the air damp with the risk of every sip. Coffee was safer, but costly, the air tense with the effort of rationing. Scrutiny was a peril of its own. A concubine's lapse gossip or defiance risked demotion, the air heavy with the murmur of accusations in the baths. Zeynep faced judgment for a late task, the air tense with the scrutiny of eunuchs and the weight of gossip. The elite faced public shame, their sins recorded in chronicles, the air thick with the murmur of scribes and the scent of ink. The community was a lifeline, women sharing prayers or herbs, their voices a murmur, the air warm with the scent of rosewater and camaraderie. The harem itself was a hazard. Fires from lamps could flare, the air filling with smoke and cries. Yet resilience was the era's strength, a quiet defiance against a world of duty and fear. As we leave this world of peril, let's shift to the education and learning that shaped their understanding of survival, offering a glimmer of knowledge in a confined life. Imagine sitting in a harem schoolroom by lamplight, the year 1600 CE, where the air smells of parchment and oil, and the faint strum of an oud traces a lesson. Education for women like Zeynep was practical, shaped by etiquette and faith, yet it held a quiet power, a spark of understanding in a world of service. For the elite, learning was richer, tied to politics. Picture the glow of a lamp, the weight of a book in delicate hands, and the murmur of a verse, their rhythm soothing like a gentle breeze. Let's explore this world of education, letting its faint light settle in your mind, guiding you toward rest. For concubines, education was structured. Zeynep studied the Quran and music, guided by tutors, the air heavy with the scratch of a quill and the scent of ink. Servants learned cooking or sewing, their hands guided, the air filled with the clatter of pots and the scent of thread. Knowledge was shaped by duty verses or manners taught loyalty, the air thick with the weight of faith and the murmur of study. Elite women learned Persian poetry, their voices soft, the air heavy with the drone of verses and the scent of rosewater. Learning was often oral. Women memorized prayers or songs, their voices blending with tutors, the air warm with the hum of Arabic and the scent of wax. Reading was rare, writing rarer, reserved for scribes, the air heavy with the effort of listening. The elite read chronicles, their libraries a treasure, the air filled with the rustle of parchment and the weight of learning. Zeynep learned etiquette, her gestures practiced, the air filled with the murmur of instructions and the hope of favor. Knowledge was shared in bathhouses. Tales of loyal concubines or fallen rivals filled the air, their cadence soothing as Zeynep listened, her hands resting from sewing. The air carried the scent of steam and soap, the stories of bond between women, teaching duty or sparking ambition. Tutors shared rules, court etiquette, prayer times, the air filled with the drone of lessons and the scent of incense. These lessons were a bond tying women to their roles, the air filled with the rhythm of shared duty. Education faced challenges. Time was scarce, books costly, the air heavy with the demands of service or beauty. Yet knowledge was a shield. A skill learned could secure favor, the air warm with its power. As we leave this world of learning, let's shift to the leisure and entertainment that offered a moment of joy, a chance to rest in a life of service. Picture yourself in a harem garden at dusk, the year 1600 CE, where the air is warm with the scent of roses, sherbet, and the sound of a tambour drifts through the crowd. For women like Zeynep, leisure was a rare escape, a moment to find joy amid duty and scrutiny. These pastimes, music, feasts, and shared tales, were a flicker of light in a confined world. Imagine the glow of a lamp, the clatter of trays, and the soft murmur of a story, their warmth wrapping around you like a woven tapestry. Let's wander through these moments, letting their joy settle over you, guiding you toward rest. Festivals were the heart of leisure, tied to faith. Eid brought sweets and songs, the air rich with the scent of honey and the chant of hymns. Zeynep joined discreetly, her kaftan heavy, the air warm with the applause of women and the glow of lamps. The Sultan's birthday saw feasts, the air alive with the scent of lamb and the laughter of children. The elite hosted recitals, their courtyards grand, the air filled with the clink of silver and the scent of jasmine. Music was a constant joy, even in lessons. Zeynep played the oud, her fingers light, the air warm with its melody and the scent of wax. Women sang lullabies, their voices blending with flutes, the air filled with the strum of strings and the murmur of praise. Work could be leisure embroidering or storytelling, the air heavy with the prick of needles or the scent of thread and the rhythm of shared tasks. Games were cherished. Women played backgammon in chambers, the air clicking with wooden pieces and the murmur of bets. The elite played chess, the air heavy with the clack of ivory and the scent of rosewater. Festivals brought spectacle dances or poetry readings, the air rich with the smell of incense and the excitement of a crowd. Zeynep watched, her veil fluttering, the air warm with the joy of a rare escape. Storytelling was beloved, done by lamplight. Tales of faithful wives or royal favor filled the air, their cadence soothing as Zeynep listened, her hands resting from sewing. The air carried the scent of coffee and wax, the stories of bond between women, teaching duty or sparking laughter. The harem was a stage, with gossip about rivals shared in whispers, the air warm with intrigue. These moments were a bridge, connecting women to their world, the air filled with the rhythm of shared lives. As we leave this world of joy, let's shift to a final reflection, tying together the threads of these lives. As the sounds of the harem fade, the splash of fountains, the rustle of silk, the scent of rose water and incense, let your mind rest in the quiet that follows. We've wandered through the lives of women like Zeynep, from the rituals that guarded their roles to the moments of joy that softened their duties, from the weight of rivalry to the resilience that sustained them. Their world was one of duty and confinement, shaped by the Sultan, community, and the hum of the harem. Yet it was also one of endurance, where shared laughter and quiet bonds offered strength. Imagine yourself now in a soft, warm bed, the air still and the pressures of their time far away, their courage a distant echo. Their lives, though often unrecorded, remind us of the quiet victories that define us in the face of hardship. Let the details slip away like petals falling in a garden. The tiled chambers, the lamplit divans, the taste of rice and sherbet, they fade into the background, leaving only the peace of this moment. You've journeyed through a world that shaped an empire, its women's steady hands and resilient hearts keeping its rhythm alive. Now it's time to rest, to let go of the harem's hum and sink into calm. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the gentle rhythm of history lull you into sleep, safe in the stillness of now. Though centuries separate us from the world of the Ottoman Imperial Harem, many of its emotional structures and social mechanisms echo in today's society, especially in how women navigate visibility, hierarchy, and surveillance. In Zeynep's world, appearance was everything. A perfectly embroidered kaftan, a soft gaze, a well-measured word could secure safety or favor, while a single misstep, whether real or rumored, could spell exile or ruin. Today, this dynamic is uncannily mirrored in the lives of women who operate under constant observation. Celebrities, influencers, corporate professionals, even everyday individuals caught in the relentless cycle of social media exposure. Just as the harem's concubines measured their worth in proximity to power and public perception, modern women often feel judged by likes, comments, corporate evaluations, and curated reputations. The harem's rigid hierarchy, where every woman knew her rank and the penalties for violating unspoken rules, finds modern parallels in institutional politics, workplace dynamics, and digital cliques. Office environments, academic circles, and online platforms reproduce the same cautious performance, the same balancing act of diplomacy, competition, and survival. Even the role of the eunuch as both protector and enforcer finds echoes in today's gatekeepers. HR managers, publicists, moderators, and algorithms that monitor behavior and enforce norms. Rituals of self-presentation, much like the daily bathing and careful grooming described in the story, still dominate women's routines, but now it's skincare, fashion aesthetics, Instagram filters, and scripted Zoom calls. Emotional labor, so critical to Zeynep's survival, soothing, entertaining, anticipating the needs of others, is still disproportionately expected from women in homes, workplaces, and public roles. Moreover, the story's undercurrent of confinement within beauty and luxury speaks deeply to the illusion of empowerment through aesthetics in modern times. Like the concubines who lived amid tiles, music, and velvet while sacrificing autonomy, modern women may have access to consumer choice and media presence, yet many still lack full control over their narratives, bodies, or professional destinies. Zeynep's rare moments of joy singing in the hammam, sharing sherbet at Ed Mirror, today's brief reprieves. A night out, a shared meme, a private message chain of solidarity. Even the stories passed among the concubines resemble the group chats, subreddits, and TikTok comment threads where women now process their place in the world, share cautionary tales, and seek escape through storytelling. The harem's customs, steeped in spiritual routine and social performance, find their modern reflection in the scripted rituals of daily life. Gym schedules, meal prep, digital detoxes, self-help routines, all masking a deeper hunger for autonomy and meaning. Zeynep's world, though shrouded in rose-scented quiet, was ultimately a system of surveillance, silence, and submission conditions that, while more subtle today, still define the experience of countless women navigating patriarchal structures, whether in relationships, careers, or public life. The forms have changed, the tools updated, but the core struggle maintaining identity, safety, and voice in a world shaped by others remains heartbreakingly familiar. The Ottoman Harem, though distant in its exotic imagery and historical context, was essentially a theater of gendered control, one that resonates uncomfortably with today's systems of quiet coercion. Zeynep, a concubine who learned to survive through silence, performance, and strategic alliances, may seem worlds apart from a modern woman navigating the demands of a corporate office, an influencer balancing personal truth with brand expectations, or even a stay-at-home mother under the judgmental eye of social standards. But peel back the aesthetics, the silk curtains, the rosewater baths, the tiled corridors. and you find a reality centered on being watched, evaluated, and either elevated or punished according to unspoken, ever-shifting expectations. Today's digital environment is strikingly similar. A curated space where personal expression must be measured, appearance must be maintained, and social capital can evaporate with a single misjudged word, photo, or tweet. In both worlds, the architecture may be physical or digital, but the surveillance is constant and internalized. The economy of favor that ruled the harem finds a modern twin in the pursuit of visibility and approval. Zeynep survived not because she was the most talented, but because she learned how to read people, how to perform loyalty, when to display emotion, and when to stay silent. This emotional calibration is still expected of women today. Whether negotiating the tone of an email, crafting a LinkedIn post that's confident but not arrogant, or presenting themselves during a job interview or date, women are still taught formally or by experience that too much assertiveness is punished, while too little is ignored. The harem's hierarchies also resemble the tiered access and prestige systems of modern institutions. Just as a favored concubine might receive silk garments and better food, today's favored employees, students, or public figures gain better opportunities, media attention, or financial reward, but often at the cost of privacy, authenticity, or personal freedom. Like Zeynep, many modern women internalize this system early, learning how to be agreeable, modest, supportive, and pliant in order to move up, while knowing that their value can be reassessed or revoked without warning. Even leisure, which seemed to offer Zeynep brief moments of reprieve, a song, a story, a shared fig, is under similar constraint today. What should be restful often becomes performance. Social media has turned entertainment into branding. A modern woman's vacation photo isn't just a memory, but a signal of wealth, desirability, lifestyle. The same scrutiny Zeynep faced for her posture, tone, or jewelry finds modern parallels in the comments section or workplace gossip, where choices about clothes, voice, or partners are still dissected. Intimacy, too, is burdened by expectation. In the harem, Zeynep's rare nights with the Sultan were acts of political and emotional negotiation, not love. Today's romantic interactions, particularly in high-pressure or unequal power dynamics, are still shadowed by performance. Will he call back? Did I sound too needy? As women feel compelled to anticipate desire rather than express their own. Religion and culture also remain tools of regulation. Zeynep's world was shaped by Islam, not just in ritual but in moral codes that dictated her behavior and value. Today, women across cultures still encounter moral frameworks, whether religious, secular, or pseudo-feminist, that dictate how to be a good woman, a respectable girl, or an empowered female. These labels may sound progressive, but often disguise the same age-old boundaries. Be desirable, but modest. Be smart, but not threatening. Be ambitious, but nurturing. Zeynep was punished for stepping outside the lines. So are women today, though the penalties might be shame, exclusion, or economic hardship, rather than exile or physical danger. What Zeynep's story ultimately reveals is that freedom is often conditional, even for those who appear to have choices. Modern life has given women new tools, but not always new systems. And yet, just as Zeynep found community in whispered stories, shared meals, and mutual support, women today find strength in networks that resist the structures built around them. Online support groups, feminist discourse, queer communities, workplace mentorships. These are today's equivalents of the hammam gossip and shared lullabies. Like the bathhouse where women exchanged cautionary tales and bits of joy, modern spaces, though still often policed, can become places of quiet rebellion, healing, and shared humanity. If anything, the comparison between Zeynep's world and ours reveals not how far we've come, but how similar the underlying tensions remain. The harem was not just a place, but a condition, a metaphor for any space where beauty, obedience, and silence are traded for safety. And in a world where women still ask, "Am I enough? Too much? Too visible?" the echoes of Topkapi still linger. The story of Zeynep and the Ottoman Harem is not simply a window into an exotic past. It is a layered portrait of power, vulnerability, silence, and strategy within one of the most misunderstood institutions in imperial history. The script unfolds with careful, sleep-inducing rhythm, but underneath its calm tone lies a slow revelation of how systemic confinement shaped the minds and spirits of women whose names history often forgot. The Imperial Harem of Topkapi, palace often romanticized as a place of luxury and indulgence, is here rendered in its full complexity, as a self-contained universe where discipline, obedience, emotional restraint, and unrelenting scrutiny governed every aspect of daily life. This harem was not simply a palace for pleasure, but a political institution that balanced the needs of the empire, the desires of a sultan, and the complex inner lives of women who had little control over their fate. Through Zeynep's eyes, first as a servant, then a concubine, and finally a mother, we come to understand the exhausting tightrope walked by all who lived behind those tiled walls. At the heart of the story lies a contradiction. The women of the harem were both powerless and powerful. Zeynep was captured from a Circassian village, brought into the empire as a commodity, trained into court etiquette, and slowly elevated in rank. She bore a son for the sultan, an act that could propel a woman toward immense influence, should her child rise, but even such a monumental moment is wrapped in caution. Her life is punctuated not by triumphs, but by threats of rivalry, illness, and reputational ruin. This duality is critical. The harem was a machine for survival, but also a place of emotional labor. The story dwells on these rhythms not through overt conflict, but through the subtle rituals of daily life. The preparation of food, the scent of rose water, the weight of a veil, the rustle of kaftans, and the disciplined use of one's body and voice. Zeynep's life was not one of indulgence, but of curated selfhood. Every gesture was a message. Every silence was strategic. The harem's geography itself mirrors its psychological structure. The story opens with the sensory imprint of the palace, the scent of incense, the splash of fountains, and the dim lighting of oil lamps. These spaces are lush, yes, but also cloistered. Every corridor leads inward. There is no escape, only deeper passage into silence and hierarchy. Rooms become metaphors, shared chambers for servants reflect communal resilience and enforced modesty, while the private chambers of the elite echo the isolating burden of visibility and control. The story moves through these layers with the same softness one might use when walking barefoot over cold marble, carefully, with reverence for the fragility of the people who live there. Zeynep, as a narrative anchor, is never a victim, but she is always under tension between ambition and loyalty, faith and fear, service and identity. These tensions are shown through the smallest details. the trembling weight of a prayer bead, the flicker of a brass lamp, the hopeful scent of honey on a feast day. Music, storytelling, and ritual play central roles not just in daily life, but in the construction of psychological endurance. The harem, though rigid, was not emotionally barren. Zeynep plays the oud, listens to recited poetry, and exchanges stories in the hammam. These moments, delicate and often overlooked in mainstream depictions of harems, are where the story breathes. They are evidence that even within systems of control, people reach toward joy. The tale is not romanticized, but it is humanized. This emphasis on gentle leisure, not indulgence but reprieve, invites the listener to imagine the emotional texture of the past. Not only the tasks and threats, but the rare laughter, the shared meal, the comfort of a hymn. These glimmers of intimacy and solidarity anchor the narrative in real life, not fantasy. They remind us that the women of the harem were not simply pawns in the empire's politics, but thinking, feeling individuals carving moments of selfhood in a place that rarely allowed it. The narrative also does an exceptional job of contextualizing Zeynep's life within the broader cultural and religious framework of the Ottoman court. Islamic customs are not presented as abstract rules, but as structuring elements that lend order to the character's emotional and physical worlds. The 5 daily prayers, the bath rituals, the festival of Eid each is rendered with sensory precision, drawing attention to the ways faith provided both structure and a spiritual refuge. These customs are not cast as exotic or archaic, but as meaningful rhythms of life. They were ways to endure, to remember oneself, to bond with others. When Zeynep seeks solace from gossip or illness, it is often through prayer or recitation. And yet, religion is not portrayed as an uncritical source of peace. It is intertwined with patriarchy, reinforcing obedience and piety in ways that both comfort and confine. This duality of faith as anchor and cage is subtly woven throughout. Power, as the story shows, was always relational. Women like Zeynep wielded soft influence, measured not in commands but in proximity, charm, timing, and self-control. The story illustrates this through the quiet tension between Zeynep and her unnamed rivals, and through the contrasting figure of Safi, the powerful valid sultan. Where Zeynep must tread softly to avoid accusation, Safi must wield her power with calculated grace to avoid political backlash. The elite are not free. They are simply watched more closely. This contrast highlights a central theme, that power within the harem was less about liberation than it was about shifting the terms of survival. One might rise through the ranks, but the system remained intact, punishing, observing, and defining every gesture of rebellion or grace. Zeynep may become a mother to the sultan's son, but she is still subject to inspection, still vulnerable to rumors, still replaceable. The story understands and respects that complexity, refusing to flatten its characters into archetypes. Another achievement of the script is its use of material culture to build world depth. Objects like silver mirrors, ivory inkwells, clay pots, and copper trays are not simply props. They are extensions of the self, tools of survival, symbols of status, and conduits of anxiety. A cracked pot might ruin a meal, and therefore a concubine's chance at favor. A misplaced letter could incite suspicion. These details are delivered with a gentle cadence, anchoring the listener in a world where survival is tactile. Even the food rice, lentils, yogurt, figs offers insight into class divisions and daily monotony. The concubines' lives were dictated by objects, not just by the presence of luxuries, but by the maintenance of tools, the weight of embroidery needles, the smell of burning oil. This sensory language is essential to the calm, immersive tone of the narrative, but it also quietly tells us everything about the labor of women, often invisible, always essential. The story resists the temptation to inject drama or scandal. Its power lies in its quietude. By avoiding tropes of forbidden love or palace intrigue, the script instead honors the reality of emotional labor and strategic silence. It explores not what made the harem shocking, but what made it exhausting. The segment on challenges, rivalries, disease, and fire is particularly moving. These dangers are described not with urgency, but with emotional gravity. Zeynep's fears are not melodramatic. They are reasonable responses to a system designed to break or mold her. Her brief illness, the quiet threat of exile, the judgment of eunuchs, these are more frightening than swords or assassins, because they were more common and more real. The educational component of the story, Zeynep's Quranic lessons, etiquette training, embroidery instruction, illuminates how women were shaped into symbols of both obedience and refinement. Education was not liberation but adaptation. The story subtly critiques this by showing how narrow the curriculum was for most concubines, while still honoring the way women found purpose or satisfaction in their learning. Even storytelling, passed orally in hammams, is a form of inherited wisdom, a way to remember those who came before, and a way to warn or inspire. These shared narratives, along with ritual and music, are what allow the harem to function as a society unto itself. Finally, the conclusion of the story is where its emotional thesis settles. Zeynep, like so many concubines, dies unnamed in the official records, but not in our memory. The script insists on her humanity. It gives her a name, a story, a child, a moment of rest. It refuses to allow her to be flattened into one of many, and in doing so it performs an act of narrative justice. It restores agency not through revolution, but through remembrance. By tracing the outlines of her routines, her fears, her small joys, the story does what history so rarely does, it notices her. And in this noticing, we as listeners are invited to slow down and dwell in empathy. We are asked not to judge the past, but to understand how systems of power shape the people inside them. We are not meant to wake up with outrage, but to fall asleep with reverence. In the end, this is a story not about harems, but about how humans cope with constraint. It's about the quiet poetry of survival, the beauty of adaptation, and the resilience of community. It's a reminder that luxury can be a cage, obedience can be a strategy, and that even within walls, people find ways to dream, to love, and to matter. Through soft lighting, warm voices, and sensory language, the narrative brings Zeynep's world into ours, not as spectacle, but as memory. A memory so gently told it lingers long after the lights go out.